We were learning about the British education policies, right? You can write down that because of the British education policies, Persian language, literature, and traditions were worst hit. Important to note that by 1835, Freedom of Press Act, printing of cheap English texts or textbooks were made available. Subsequently, Persian was replaced by English and vernacular languages in higher and lower courts respectively. These data you can use it in your mains or they are very important for your prelims. Either which way you need to remember them. By 1844, English became mandatory for employment under the company, which had a number of direct and indirect repercussions or outcomes. We'll explain Wardha scheme of basic education 1937, and in this spirit I would entertain the question regarding Gandhiji's views on education, right? The Wardha scheme of basic education was planned by Zakir Hussain, or chief architect was Zakir Hussain, and also referred to as Nai Talim or new rehearsal or new training. Please understand, why was it for the first time that the Indians were involved in scheming or preparing for the model of education in the country? This is because of the constitutional changes made under Government of India Act of 1935. Please remember, under the provisions, education became a prerogative under the state list. Also, fully responsible elected state governments were facilitated under Government of India Act of 1935. Before that, it was not fully responsible elected state governments. This is precisely the reason Wardha scheme of education came into existence. Also, another thing you need to remember is that Wardha scheme of basic education was never implemented. It was never implemented because the elected representatives in the jointly resigned in the context of British participating the Second World War. As they jointly resigned, the state governments collapsed and they never accepted the Wardha scheme of basic education. I would want you to remember it from the perspective of your prelims. Now let us understand the Gandhian scheme of education or Gandhian idea, views on education. You have to understand, Gandhian views on education was primarily a tool to realize his utopian model, utopian worldview that talks about the political, social or socio-cultural and economic views. Utopian, it means an ideal society. That means where there is no crime. Utopian society, there will be no requirement of police. Today, there will be no requirement of externalities, external pressure to be good, to be law abiding. There should be no requirement of the law in the first place. That is the Gandhian utopian society. Unfortunately, in today's world, there is no linear understanding. Thereby, the model of Gandhian utopian society is probably distant from reality. So in this case, but he tried to explain that we believe in a number of imaginary ideas just because we believe in it. We believe in the imaginary idea of state, nation. It is an imaginary idea. So here, if we believe in the imaginary ideas, these unite us. They strengthen us. They inspire us. They give a hope to us. Thereby, they are much required for human progress. If not so, at least we believe in the imaginary idea of currency. We all believe the currency to be real. Thereby, the paper, a piece of paper, gives us emotional comfort. It gives us strength, stability, and security. If you see your cell phone and the account has been credited with some digits, it will give you much security and happiness because you believe in the idea of it. And because education has sensitized your ideas. You have been modeled, you have been trained. That is another purpose of education. Understand, in today's world, material world, you receive education for employment generation. Here you are sitting in front of my class primarily to get selection in UPSC or any other paper. Become a civil servant, that is one of the purpose. Then can be to distinguish between the good and the bad, to become independent in decision making. I am not here to teach you what is good or what is bad. I am here to teach you reasoning, rationality, so that you choose it for yourself. Finally, the last but not the least, it is for social, moral, political, or economic sensitization. You have been trained that while driving on the road, green is go and red is stop. Though you know yellow is generally to slow down, you generally go faster. But again, the purpose is that so that everybody, there is a normative conformity. If I teach 50% of the population with red you go, and 50% of the population I teach that with green you go, there will be collision, there will be accidents, there will be death. I hope I have explained the purpose of education, right? Shall we move on? Then that is the purpose, so that everybody can be trained to live in that moral society. That is the purpose of Gandhian. I hope you understood. So second purpose is that the purpose of education, that is to address the challenges of employment or unemployment and also evils of capitalism, industrialization. Gandhiji argued that with capitalism and industrialization, what happens was class difference, loss of employment, and also exploitation of working class. So what was his solution? His solution or alternative to capitalism and industrialization. His alternative to industrialization and capitalism was in the form of promotion of handicraft industry. So that was also reflected in education. That means he talked about skill development so that there can be employment generation. They will be addressing all these problems I have discussed. If the young minds are trained to perform handicrafts, they will generate employment. If there are, India had so much of human population. If you skill them properly, even today, we have so much of potential to topple and become the greatest economy of the world once again. We have the benefit of demographic dividend as we are having this lecture in 2020. If imparted with the right skill set, we can be one of the finest nations of the world. So in this way, also understand the relevance of Gandhian views on education also in present time. That can be another dimension for your mains. These are certain understanding. If you think more, you will be able to perform, right?